Santa Claus is fucking shit up. My lovely voice. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, and this is my review of Violent Night. Um, I'm a blind film critic, and this is January. So I don't know how I feel about watching but I get it. It had to be theatrical, and I waited day and date. So I don't know if I'm in the Christmas spirit a month out of Christmas, but I think this film is entertaining no matter what time of year you watch it. It's currently on Peacock with audio description. So if you don't have the cock, you don't have Violent Night. Unless you rent it or buy it. But that's where it is. So, the film stars David Harbour, John Leguizamo, Beverly D'Angelo, and a whole bunch of other people. Who, I don't know who they are. But those are the heavy hitters here. The big heavy hitter here is David Harbour, who plays Santa. Actually Santa. Not like fake Santa, or like mall Santa, or delusional guy who thinks he's Santa, but Santa. This is a weird choice for Santa, I'll admit. But he's a good choice for this movie. So it sort of is like merging your expectations, being like, okay, so we wrote a movie, who would be really good in this? I don't know, it sounds like David Harbour would be great. Okay, what if I told you the guy was Santa? Oh, I guess we could make that work. I mean, maybe? Fuck it, let's do it. I feel like that's the conversation that happened. They're like, I don't know if David Harbour could play Santa, but let's try. Let's do it. He'd be so great in the film otherwise. It's sort of that casting, it's the daring to make that choice. Sort of like having Keanu Reeves voice Batman in DC League of Super Pets. It doesn't make sense. Like when you say it out loud, you're like, Keanu Reeves is Batman, and you're like, no, go away. And then somebody actually does it, and you hear it, and you're like, oh my God, I have to have this. I need it. I need more. So it's a little bit like that. I mean, David Harbour as Santa Claus, you're like, no. He doesn't look anything like a Santa Claus. Or act, or he doesn't even try, really, to be totally honest. He acts a lot like David Harbour would act in anything. Yeah, there's no, as part of the thing here is that Santa, we've all lost our Christmas spirit, and kids these days, they're asking for cash, and video games. Literally, there's one kid in the film who shows up, and the wish list is cash, and video games. He's not even specific, which I thought was funny. It's just video games, just any of them. Doesn't matter which platform, he has all of them. I think that kid should have woken up on Christmas morning to a fuckload of Atari games. That's what I would have done if I was Santa. I'd have been like, they're video games. You just put video games. You didn't put Xbox and PlayStation. You just put video games. So hope you got Sega CD, bitch. Yeah, so he's jaded himself, and he's drunk. He drinks a lot in this film, but he just kind of enters every situation like a right. He's still delivering the toys. He's doing what he's supposed to do, but he's contemplating: is this his last Christmas? Is he gonna? I don't even know what that means for like the rest of the world at this point. Like he's like, there really isn't much of a discussion about that. We don't know much about him. We sort of meet him in a fun situation, and then we just kind of go from there. You learn slowly about him, and there's this really absolutely batshit backstory about his character. Just absolutely nuts. and that's part of the reason why I didn't like the movie as much as I did. Um, his backstory and when he starts talking about it, plus the way that he acts, are not congruent with each other. They don't really match up. They don't really, like, somebody with that backstory would not necessarily be in the same place. So, throwing caution to the wind, and I'm gonna spoil a little without, because I can't really talk about why I don't like the movie without talking a little bit around it. So I have to mention a little bit. Otherwise, it just looks like he's being mean to Violent Night. He didn't like it. Oh my god. And it's like, no, it's fun. It's just, I mean, somebody I respect a lot, but this is in their top 10, and I'm very surprised after watching it. And I'm just like, good God, really? I mean, I know it's fun, and I've struggled with putting stuff that I really love this year in my top 10, like Beavis and Butthead. I thought was hilarious, but top 10, dude, come on now. Like, after I saw this, I was like, I don't know. But the whole plot revolves around this rich family that's obnoxious, where Beverly D'Angelo is the matriarch of the family, and there's this little grouping of a mother, daughter, and a mother, father, and a daughter, and the little girl is like super into Christmas, adorably so. She's adorable. She needs her own movie. She needs to be the new Home Alone. That's where we need Violet. She needs to take up the mantle after this, and we can leave David Harbour, and he can go off and do his own thing, and she can continue to take Violent Night, but in like a family-friendly direction, like a Home Alone series. Yeah, she was great. I forgot the name of the actress, but there's this little girl that's throughout the whole film, and she's all about Christmas. It is, and her name was, I know that her real name in the film is Gertrude, and they call her one of those things that's like a shortening of Gertrude, like, I don't know. Anyway, but she's the one that is all about this, and everybody else is kind of just like vapid. Her parents aren't too bad. They're obviously both here for the kid, and not so much. Everybody else is there kind of like for the money. There's this other like older kid who is obnoxious, and there's a reference to the fact that he's already had like a Me Too scandal type of thing, that his parents had to like buy a gymnasium for this kid, and he has no filter. I mean, he was kind of hilarious, but like the Wi-Fi goes out in the house, and immediately he screams at his grandmother. He's like, "Grandma, your Wi-Fi sucks ass!" It's just like, I'm like, who's this kid? Who raised him? Where are his parents? So I mean, he's funny in like bits and pieces. And then there's like the rest of the family, and I don't know, they all suck. Beverly D'Angelo is not like a redeemable, likable character. And the weird thing is, John Leguizamo, who plays the bad guy here, they do sort of like this Michael Jordan and Black Panther thing with him, where they take it from his viewpoint and they show you, and then you go, yeah, I kind of get it. Okay, go ahead, rob them. Like, it's because they give him sort of this backstory, right, where you feel sort of bad for him, and they also put him up against this incredibly dislikable wealthy family. So you're kind of like, I mean, it's fun to see David Harbour kill these henchmen, right? Because you ultimately are rooting for the little girl to have the Christmas of her dreams. So, like, above everything else, above all of the shenanigans of all these people who are various shades of terrible, is this an incredibly amazing child who feels like that one child who could save Christmas. You know, like in a movie where they're like, oh, the magic of Christmas is dying, and there's like this one girl who's like, but I believe in Santa. I still believe. I think that's this girl. You know, like the kid at the end of Jack Frost, where they're trying to Rise of the Guardians, for they're trying to protect that one kid who believes in Jack Frost because he's actually seen Jack Frost. It's a little like that. She's just unrelentingly adorable for this movie, especially considering the tone. But the thing is that Harbor as Santa they give him this backstory so he's up against all these mercenaries, and they all have guns, and these people have invaded this house, and there's enough people in there for him to kill for days. Don't worry about it. It's a ridiculous amount of people. At first, there's like a small group that starts the infiltration, and they all have ridiculous nicknames, and they're talking about like, do we have to keep these nicknames? Like, do we have to keep calling ourselves Candy Cane? And you know, but he has a backstory that involves him sort of being a badass. Like, before he found the calling to become Santa, he had, like some hammer of justice and he had some weird name, and it reminded me a little bit of there was a foreign language title a while back where Santa was kind of a badass too. It reminded me of that. No, I don't remember the name of it. I mean, I probably will later, but David Harbour does not act like it at all until the story is revealed. He acts like terrified, or like he doesn't want to be involved, or he's scared, or he's whatever. Like, he just cannot. He like accidentally gets involved almost. He happens to be in this house at the same time, and then when he starts hearing some gunfire, he's like, oh crap, I gotta get out. And he's not in a room where there's a fireplace at the time, which is a problem for him, and the gunfire scares his reindeer away, so he just gets kind of stuck there. So he goes for this whole like he's also scared. It's a little bit like, I don't know, like one of those people in the like a Channing Tatum in White House Down, who's like running around, or Gerard Butler in Olympus Has Fallen, where like trying to help the situation and fend off all these guards, except he feels even less prepared. But then, like, when the film needs him to be, he tells this story of his badassery, and you're like, dude, why are you so scared? Then I don't understand. You should be less intimidated. If you used to be this guy, if you used to be the dude, the man, this should not bother you so much. You should be kicking it into high gear and ready to kick some butt. It takes him a while to get there. So yeah, he's just kind of a loser Santa for a long time, who accidentally kills like his first couple of people. He somehow magically wins those battles, but then later on the film is like, by the way, give him a hammer and he's a badass. And you're like, oh shit, he is great, cool. So that's where it kind of gets weird for me, is it's like, at least pick a consistent tone for his character. I would have been fine if he had no backstory. I think giving him the backstory of being a badass just doesn't make it, like, he could have just been Santa who stumbles upon this and has to take out all these people, and that's fine. That movie would have been fine. I didn't need to know that he ever had like a Thor-like hammer. I just don't need to know that. because it kind of ruined the experience for me of him walking around scared. I was like, why are you scared? Damn it. So anyway, sometimes building up backstories for characters just doesn't really pay off. But John Leguizamo's backstory does pay off for his character, because you're like, oh, well, he's not, maybe he has a point, you know? Plus, this family's obnoxious, if we're being honest. Like, in large, there's like, you know, the girl and her family can leave, but everybody else can stay and endure, and maybe learn something from this experience. But yeah, John Leguizamo's interesting here. It's a good performance. The film's silly. I love the score. The score to this film is so upbeat. It reminds me of all those 90s Christmas movies where we just had like an unrelenting Christmas track like throughout the whole film. I don't even know if it's original or not. I have no idea. I want to put this in like my top 10 original scores for the year. I don't know how much of it is original. It didn't feel like I wasn't sitting there listening to like Jingle Bells the whole time. So I think it's just themed Christmassy. Like they're doing the same thing that films like Jingle All the Way used to do, the Home Alone, and like Elf. You know, where there are films about Christmas and they just have Christmas music playing underneath them the whole time. So we used to release holiday movies theatrically instead of just making a whole bunch of them for Hallmark, Lifetime, Netflix, and all those streamers. It's really sad now. Anyway, they do directly reference Home Alone in this movie, and it does feel a lot like an R-rated Home Alone at times. So, there's that. But as far as the audio description goes, yeah, I didn't really have a problem with it, because you do get a pretty good description of the fight sequences as they're happening, and a good lay of the land, so to speak, with the various items and tools, because it's not like Santa was carrying around a weapon. You know, he wasn't like ready with like a battle axe to come in here, and so he's just picking up stuff around the house and using it as weapons. So he's got that sort of like that Kevin McAllister grew up, became Santa, and he's come back to fight. Anyway, it's got that kind of vibe to it. And they do a pretty good job of telling you what it is that he's using, and what it is that the other people are using, and how these people die. The film does earn its R rating, but it doesn't earn its R rating in a way that I'm just like, okay. I mean, this is a film that I think probably would have gotten a really solid TV edit, you know, back in the day, where like the USA Network version of this would have been actually most of the film. You would have gotten like a couple bleeps or a couple like word changes to knock some profanity out, but for the most part, they could have chopped maybe just a few seconds of footage and been fine. Cut away a couple times, and then really quickly it becomes edited for television. And okay, at least based on what I saw as a kid, I don't think this is that far away from that. So, yeah, I wouldn't call this a hard R. It does have a comedic approach to it, so it's not serious. I don't think it would scare children. It's not meant to. Even the violence in the film, when it is over the top, it's all taken from this jokey perspective. So do what you want with that. It is rated R, so they are warning you in advance that this is maybe not for kids. And yes, it did get its R rating, and I'm not going to take that away from it. It didn't like happen upon an R rating. It's clearly intended to be R. So there you go. Those are my feelings on Violet Night. But in case you're wondering why I didn't just swoon over the film, it has a lot to do with, I think this film is perfect as it is if they just remove his backstory. if I just didn't know anything about Santa before he gets in, the Santa that I'm introduced to, the Santa that drops into the chimney, and the Santa that I see throughout most of the film is consistent. But the Santa, suddenly, when he's like, when I was young, I was called this, and they called... I don't need that. I'm sorry. I just don't. It ruins the film for me. His backstory is stupid, and it doesn't match with the character who he is today. So... and he doesn't feel like he has nearly the combat experience that he claims to have. But that's it. That's Violent Night. So I'm gonna give Violent Night a B+. I know, it seems like I was gonna give that a lower grade, right? Well, for a lot of people, this has been like an A film. This has like the potential to be like the Menu, which is just entertaining if it's your thing. Violent Night, I totally understand if it's your thing, can be really entertaining, and it felt like it was my thing the whole way through, except this backstory thing was it just didn't make any sense. It just was... I'm so surprised I left it in there, because it was so unnecessary. It just doesn't make any sense. And it just, if anything, it just hampers his character. They should have just had Santa as Santa. I don't know why he doesn't need he's Santa. He doesn't need a backstory. So, anyway. You don't need a backstory, Santa Claus. So, that's it. That's my long-ass review of Violent Night. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And, hopefully, if it's your first review of mine, you've decided to click subscribe so you can continue talking with me about films that have audio descriptions, so we can get more of them with audio description. I also have a website, macmovieguy.com. You can go to Twitter or Instagram and follow me at macmovieguy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org, to let you know what has audio description and where you can watch it. And you can go to theadna.org, where you can sort of see the resumes of various narrators and other people who work in the audio description community. That's it for me today. I will review something else for you guys, and see you on the other side.